Hello, welcome to the self-learning platform by Dr. Sushma Singh. Today in Unit 5 Equality, we are going to start our lecture with topic towards equality. There is no doubt that all societies are unequal. The rise of capitalism replaced one set of inequalities based upon birth and privileges with another set of inequalities based upon private property. Yet, there are a number of historical changes which promoted trends towards equality and egalitarianism. Positive attempts to eradicate inequality are often undermined by the paradoxical relationship between personal liberty and social equality. But the important thing here is to distinguish between equality of opportunity and other forms of equalities such as equality of conditions and equality of results. While most democratic societies have achieved equality of opportunity and to a large extent equality of conditions, they have yet to go a long way to achieve equality of results. The citizenship rights first developed in Europe and then spread to all other parts of the world helped in evolving a society based upon equality of opportunity, merit, and competition. Legal citizenship was associated with freeing the individual from arbitrary legal constraints, and it opened the professions and public administration on the basis of educational qualifications. Similarly, political citizenship rights gave the people an opportunity to participate in the affairs of the government. Social citizenship attempted to reform capitalism through legislation. The gradual development of universal provision for basic education, health, and social security was a modest attempt to bring about an equality of conditions. The expansion of the welfare state in the 20th century was an extension of the social legislation. Legislation on minimum wages, hours of work, unemployment allowance, work conditions, occupational safety, etc., have made the employees less vulnerable as a mere commodity on the labor market. At the same time, we cannot forget that these changes do not transform the economic basis of capitalism in terms of private appropriation of wealth. Brian Turner has called it a hyphened system because it combines a progressive expansion of egalitarian citizenship rights with continuity of inequalities in terms of class, status, and power. Apart from citizenship rights, according to Gallner, there have been a number of important processes in modern industrial societies which tend to bring about an egalitarian ideal, partly as a consequence of the decline of hierarchical social structures and weakening of cultures which traditionally legitimatized equality. For example, modern industrial societies are characterized by a high degree of social mobility, which make the enforcement of traditional forms of rank difficult. The movement of youth from villages and towns to cities was associated with the decline of parental authority. Similarly, many features of modern capitalism, especially the involvement of women in the workforce, has weakened the patriarchal authority within the household. The rise of the nuclear family has contributed to the changing status of women in society. Also, the development of mass media and emergence of modern consumerism have produced a livelihood society where traditional standards of taste and forms of cultural inequality associated with them has declined. The capacity of the working class to enjoy the new commodities has increased significantly with the higher purchases, mort- mortgages, and other loan facilities. Again, radio and television contribute to the evolution of a uniform culture for all social classes. Modern egalitarianism also owns a great deal to contemporary means of mass transport. Mass surface transport and railways have helped in removing the immobility, provincialism, and isolation of the traditional social classes. In conclusion, we can say that in a world of inequalities, there are trends which promote equality in human societies. Firstly, there is a sense of justice which appears to be a necessary feature of all social relations. Inequality is on the defensive. Secondly, the politics of democratic societies is not coercive control, but a set of institutions which enable people to achieve desired goals. Thirdly, social groups and movements such as the working class and the feminist movement successfully mobilized to achieve substantive social rights. Now, let us move to the next point that is plea for inequality in the contemporary world. As mentioned earlier, equality is a relative concept and has to be understood in the context of prevailing inequalities. Inequality is a universal feature of all societies, and its opposition has been fundamental to all social relations. Yet, inequality is still legitimized in contemporary society by reference to a variety of ideological systems, which explain the necessity and legitimacy of all forms of inequality. Hence, in order to understand equality, it is desirable to know the arguments against equality. Most forms of traditional ideology legitimizing inequality between persons have been religious in character. For example, all major religions, whether Hinduism, Buddhism, Confucianism, and believed in a transmission of a special type of knowledge to a cultural elite via a period of training and adherence to rituals which guaranteed purity. Virtually all religions are grounded in the notion of inequality. If Hinduism justified Varna system, similarly was the case of Christianity and Islam, where slavery was accepted. With the secularization of industrial capitalist society, religious inequality became less significant socially, but it brought in racial and economic inequality justified in the name of social Darwinism, which gave a special significance to the notion of survival of the fittest. It was an application of the notion of evolution and natural selection to historical growth of human society. While it legitimized competitive capitalism in the economic field, it justified the natural superiority of white races over other races and groups and an inevitable outcome of fixed laws of natural development and selection. This found its extreme form in the fascist theories of human inequality to produce a political outlook justifying policies of racial purification and extermination. Thirdly, the classical political economy of modern capitalism and utilitarianism also justified inequality. This view of economic struggle is associated with the notion of possessive individualism, achievement, and initiative. The economic doctrine of inequality associated with utilitarianism is fundamental to the general culture of capitalist society. It is difficult to distinguish between the political theory of inequality and the classical economic analysis of inequality arising from the marketplace. Locke's political arguments were based upon the right to unequal possessions. Similarly, Adam Smith's model of the market assumed three significant social classes, namely the owner of capital who acquires profits, the landowners who depended upon rents, and the working class which depended upon wages. He provided the basis for free market explanations of inequality, especially in the form of income inequality. Though there has been considerable criticism of Smith's economic policies, there has been in the modern period a revival of free market economic doctrine by economic theorists like Milton, Friedman, and F. A. Hayek, whose theories have been very much influential in reviving classical economics in the form of liberalism. Apart from the above, there are many common arguments against equality. Firstly, it is argued that there are different components of equality which are mutually incompatible. For example, equality of opportunity and conditions are likely to result in inequality of results because if a society is competitive, then it is found to produce inequality since every person cannot be the winner. The liberal notion of equality of opportunity is bound to result in inequality. Secondly, the political programs of equality are not feasible. To secure radical equality of conditions or equality of outcome require massive social and political regulations by the state resulting in a totalitarian and authoritarian regime. Thirdly, equality is not desirable since achievement of equality may be incompatible with other values which are also desirable, such as liberty. Equality of conditions may bring equality but would limit certain personal freedoms. Fourthly, the functional theory of stratification believes that there are some social positions which significantly contribute to the maintenance and continuation of the whole social system. They require special skills for their performance. The transformation of talent into skill also requires a training period of some duration involving sacrifices made by those undergoing the training. Hence, these functional positions may carry a significant inducement in the shape of a social differential involving privileges and disproportionate access to scarce rewards. In short, societies are stratified in terms of rights and rewards which induce people to undergo sacrifices and trainings for social roles which are demanding while also being rewarding. It follows that the social inequality among different social strata is positively functional for the continuity and maintenance of society. Fourthly, it is suggested that inequality in economic terms has a number of important social functions, both for society and for specific social groups. For example, low pay and associated poverty guarantees that dirty work will be accomplished in an affluent society. If a person receives the same economic wages regardless of the task, then dirty or demeaning work would never be accomplished. The stigmatization of the poor has an important economic function in forcing people to work and contribute to general productivity. Fifth, inequalities of wealth are important in subsidizing the living standard of upper and middle classes by making their lives more comfortable and enjoyable. It is also the case that the lower paid subsidized the public sector because they typically contribute in higher percentage of their income in taxes than the more wealthy sector of the population who can normally avoid taxation by employing the services of accountants and by claiming tax allowances for aspect of their employment. The proponent of inequality go to the cynical argument that suggests the functional importance of the poor is also to be found in their contribution to professional employment such as doctors, welfare services, social workers, and religious sects. Since the poor are the main clients for these groups, the poor function to provide employment for not only professional groups but also for owners of pawn shops and brothels. Also, the poor prolong the usefulness of certain items such as day-long breads and fruits, second-hand clothing, and poor quality consumer goods. In short, some form of inequality, whether in the form of wealth, power, or prestige, is inevitable as well as desirable. Here we want to wind up today's lecture. Thank you so much for your attention.